start from last week parasha. I said for two reasons. One reason is because we didn't have a class last week, but mainly because our parasha is absolutely connected to the end of Parashat Balak. As you know, in Parashat Balak, the king of Moab, Balak, tried to get Am Israel cursed by Bilam, that was known, that had a very powerful word, that whatever he would say will happen. He says to him, because it's known that whoever you curse will be cursed, whoever you bless will be blessed, and his purpose was for Bilam to curse Am Israel. That's the way he wanted to defeat Am Israel. Balak was so afraid of Am Israel that he heard the power of these people, that they defeated the Amalek, and Hashem made so many miracles for them, that he's very much afraid of what Israel is going to do to them. Now, are they successful with Bilam? How? Okay, Bilam, from the first moment, he says, I won't be able to curse if Hashem doesn't let me curse. And the 3 times that he tries to bring words out of his mouth, the only thing that comes out is blessings and blessings and blessings for Am Israel. So at one point, Balak tells him, enough, go. I didn't hire you for this. I wanted to honor you, to pay you a lot, but you have not been useful to me. And he sends him. Now, in the Torah, we don't see it, but our Chachamim in the Gemara, in Sanhedrin, they say that Bilam, before he leaves, he kind of tells him, let me tell you something. You know, I'm going to tell you something before I leave. Elohehem shel elu soneh zimah. The God of these people, he hates zimah, promiscuity. He hates that. And just know that. He hates that. So this is what Chachamim understand that Bilam is doing before he leaves. He's
deducting from
yes, because no, you're right. I love that Angela asks questions and she doesn't just take everything I tell her.
Also, when he says the you see there, they're private people, like how the tents are set up, but it's even kids, they're very private, their houses are
No, but at that point is a bracha. Actually, we're going to see it. Ma tovu alecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Israel. How great are your ohalim, your tent, your mishkenot. A mishkan is the home. The tent perhaps is the structure. Bilam is saying, wow, you are so organized. Everything is built so beautiful. Your camp looks amazing, really. That was one of the qualities of the camp of Israel, that it was very well organized. It was also from the outside looked so good. But Bilam saw the organization, but also saw what happens inside the tent. I can have the most beautiful house, the most beautiful structure, but my home might be not so beautiful. You know, there is a house and there is a home. Bilam is seeing your houses are beautiful and also your homes. Also the way you are living your family life, the way you respect each other, the way children respect their parents, the way husband and wife are connected with each other and no one is looking into the tent of the other one. So that was, good morning. So that was the bracha, or I would say even the admiration that Bilam expressed about Am Israel. Now, Angela, I don't have with me the pasuk, but I remember, I will bring it next time. Perhaps we will see here. There is in the other book later on that Hashem is saying, or even in Yehoshua, I didn't bring it, that they say, we're going to kill Bilam for the advice that he gave you. Like it said that Bilam gave a bad advice, but it's not said exactly what. Now, because of because of what happens, because of the way Moab is going to act and Bilam and Midian is going to act. So Chachamim understood they're doing this because this is the advice that they got. They didn't do it at the beginning. They tried to come with curses. Yes, Dana.
Part of the matzah rule, that you mentioned before, is the fact that their tents were set up in a way that the openings would not, they were all in one direction, so no one could see inside of someone else's tent. So I feel like implying like the opposite of promiscuity. They're so huge. What's important for these people, it's their home. So go try to go in there, and that's how you're gonna destroy
It could be, but he gave him many blessings besides of these blessings. If you see also in blessings, and he was in awe, he was also blessing them because Hashem put blessings in his mouth. What did he bless him with? No, that's being in awe. But he's telling them that Hashem is going to be with them, that they're going to be successful with the enemies. There is prophecies about the future of Am Israel. This is for last week parasha. If you want, we stay in Parashat Balak and we study Parashat Balak. But really, if we connect these two things, the pasuk of Ma tovu alecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Israel, how beautiful are your homes, your house, your tents and your homes, Israel, with what happens after that. Let's just read the psukim and then we'll talk about it. At the end of the parasha, on Aliyat Maftir, pasuk Aleph from Perek Kaf Hei, page 875 in your Chumashim, it says that Bilam left, right? Then Bilam rose up and went and returned to his place, and Balak also went on his way. That's why he got rid of these two evil people that they wanted to curse Am Israel, that they wanted the bad for us. But now, after they leave, what happens? Israel settled in the Shittim, and the people began to commit harlotry with the daughters of Moab. They invited the people to the feasts of their gods. The people ate and prostrated themselves to their gods. Israel became attached to Baal Peor, and the wrath of Hashem flared up against Israel. Hashem said to Moshe, take all the leaders of the people, hang them before Hashem against the sun, and the flaring wrath of Hashem will withdraw from Israel. Moshe said to the judges of Israel, let each man kill his men who were attached to Baal Peor. Behold, a man of the children of Israel came and brought a Midianite woman near to his brothers in the sight of Moshe and in the sight of the entire assembly of the children of Israel. And they were weeping at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Pinchas, son of Elazar, son of Aaron the Kohen, saw. And he stood up from amid the assembly and took a spear in his hand. He followed the Israelite man into the tent and pierced them both, the Israelite man and the woman, into her stomach, and the plague was halted from upon the children of Israel. Those who died in the plague were 24,000. 24,000. So one thing is for sure. Oh, I have people that try to come in, sorry. One thing is for sure clear here is that Bilam wasn't able to curse us, but we brought the curse upon ourselves. Co-host today. Mute. It's okay. There's not too many people. What happens here?
Not in a very bad way, but that's what's happening. Our kids go to colleges, our kids go sit down, say to other people, they go out with these girls, sometimes they bring them home.
So let's not speak about what is happening, but how we need to be careful that things will not happen. And what happened here? So if Midian is looking at us and is admiring these exactly qualities, these qualities that our homes are protected, that the structure of the family is really something to praise, that it makes us different from everybody else. That's why he saw the difference. He was a prophet, like he could see beyond. And what do we do exactly on that specific point? That is the family, the strength of the shalom, of the purity of the home. And there we break, and there we go, and there we bring. upon ourselves a plague that kills 24,000 people. It's kind of, showing, as my son was saying, that Rabbi Ben Chaim on Shabbat, he was saying, we shouldn't be afraid of the enemies. We shouldn't be enemies of klalot, of curses, of the, the rockets, the rockets that they send from Gaza, of the enemies. When we behave and Hashem protects us, there is nobody more powerful than us. The problem is when we don't behave, when we bring upon ourselves calamity. Let me tell you what is that attracted Bnei Israel on this type of avodah zarah. I was reading about this an article last week, and I was kind of, this cannot be. The main avodah zarah that they attached to, that was the one that they were worshiping in Moab, was called Baal Peor. You know how they worship this god? Rashi says that. Whoever knows Hebrew and wants to look, Rashi says that. You know what was the way of worshiping the god? They would stand with their back to this god, and they would make their necessity. They say they would defecate. That was what was were they serving to the god, going to the bathroom for him. Number 2. You. How can this be attractive? How could you change the kedusha of your family, of Am Israel, to do these disgusting things? And and it was so interesting. This Rabbi Chaim Sabato, was explaining what is behind this action. What does it mean to act in those ways in public, in front of others? And this is the way I'm worshiping a God. What does it mean? What does it mean that I don't care. I'm going to do it here in the middle of Fifth Avenue. No shame. Entitlement, no restraint. We don't have to care for what others say. Do just how you feel to live your life. Act according to your needs. No boundaries, no caring for what the others say or look. Like, live your life. Like, you feel like eating this, eat this. You feel like being with that, be with that one. You feel like speaking in that way, and every second word of yours is a curse, do it. You feel like after you eat, showing to the world that you are feeling full, do it. So this is a little bit this is what it represented. But we need to do introspection, as you say. How are we acting? Yes, from one side, we don't want to be all the time caring only for what the others say or look. On the other side, what is manners all about? What is manners all about? What is to act with manners? Just a second, she was.
What I read this morning, and it said, we believe doing what we want when we want, however we want is freedom. There's a difference between freedom in action and freedom in mind. Freedom in mind actually comes from self-control. Self-control is not suppression. It's not restricting yourself, limiting your door, giving up things you love. Self-control is actually an elevated level of freedom. Being controlled by our senses, drains around our desires.
That's beautiful.
Self-control is the real path.
That's so beautiful.
Which is basically what the foundation.
Freedom is having self-control. You don't let all your senses go free. You don't act only as you feel like acting. Who writes this? Can you send it to me? Oh, beautiful. Exactly the opposite of what's happening in the world. I don't know if exactly the opposite, but we have the tendency, yes. There is a tendency of, you know what, act the way you feel. And perhaps Am Israel that are in the desert for 40 years, that they are going through this training. What is the training that we got in the desert? That we are a nation, that we have to follow rules, that we have the 10 commandments, that we have the Torah, that is not Isha Yashar Beinav Yaseh, that every person is going to do whatever they feel like doing. So that might be what attracted Am Israel on this. Now, how did the Midianite, the Moabite and Midianites bring Am Israel to do this? Because it's not so easy to fail. You don't fail in the moment the Averah, the sin is in front of you. it doesn't happen like this. It doesn't happen that a young boy or a young woman will say, I'm going to marry this person, or I'm going to be with that on that place. Gradual, and also how do we fall into the hands of the non-Jew? We know very well what is the most dangerous thing for us in regards to assimilation. When everything is open, whenever they embrace us, whenever they welcome us, whenever we are, there is no boundaries. So how did it happen? Okay, so first I'm reading from the Talmud in Sanhedrin. You ask, how do they know, the rabbis? So the rabbis in Sanhedrin say that Bil'am told them, Elohem shel ele soneh zimahu, the God of these people, he hates immorality. Vehem mitavim lekle pishtan, and they are very, very, and they love very much nice clothing. They're into fashion, The Jewish people like to dress nicely, they like to have nice houses, they like high-class things. So he tells them, you know what you should do? Let me give you some advice. Set up stalls and install in them harlots to sell them linen wares. Make like stores and put there as sellers girls that have a goal in mind, right? Beautiful girls, attractive girls, sexy girls. They should be the ones to sell the fabrics. When the Yehudim were coming and they were eating and drinking and rejoicing and strolling in the marketplace, enjoying being in that shuk, they would say to them, these guys would tell them, you are like part of the family. We are friends. We are so close. Sit down and choose for yourself, please, whatever you want. You are our best clients. Yes, that is, like the secretary that can be nicer to the husband than the wife at home. So here they would do that. And next to them, they also had ready already Alechaim. They had some wine. Would you like to have a drink? It's kosher. Look, it has all you drink a little bit of wine. And after he drank wine, ba'arbo, what the desire was burning on him after drinking and being happy and being treated well. And then Amarla, and then he would tell, please be with me. I want you, I desire you. And then before she answered to him, and before she gave herself to him, she had her idol hidden. She said, okay, but first, let's do this. This is the way we act. This is the way we do. And he would say, no, don't you know I'm Jewish? He would say, I'm sorry, what do you care? I won't let you until until you say that your Torah is not, you repudiate the law of Moshe, your teacher. As it says in the Navi Hoshea, the Navi tells us, they went to Baal Peor, to this Avodah Zarah, and separated themselves onto that shame, and their abominations were according as they loved. So it was like a tricky way to attract them. It's not that they fell immediately into Avodah Zarah, but they, Chachamim tell us that there is no stronger drive than the drive of sex. It's a very, very strong drive, and a very sexuality. Like once you are there, it's very difficult to stop. It's very difficult to stop. So that they were lost. That's it. They are lost. Yes. They are exactly about to enter the land. Our parasha, and we will see today, is all the subjects have to do, okay, we're entering the land. So this is happening, and this is happening, and this is happening. So the first thing is this. So all of Am Israel are, not all of them, but many of Am Israel are failing and are engaging in Avodah Zarah. And Hashem is telling Moshe, what did we read? We didn't read. Yes, we are in the 40th year. So now what is happening here? Hashem is telling Moshe to do what? What did we read? What did we read? To do what? No. I just read according to what happened here. He tell the judges to kill them. To kill them. I want you to tell the judges to kill the new generation. Why to kill them? Why to kill them? Because there is a magefa, they are dying, there is a plague. So I need you to kill those that are guilty. This is justice, divine justice that today doesn't happen. I don't know, but 24,000 died. Now there is a plague, and the last thing that we read is that there was this man, Ish mi bnei Israel, it was a very important man. It was the head of the tribe of Shimon, and he comes and he takes a Midianite woman near to his brother, like he does it on public. Doesn't even go to the tent. He comes in public and says, okay, Baal Peor is teaching us. Feel free to act the way you like. And he's doing it in public. And the Midrash is our rabbis the rabbis try to, in a literary way, to beautify what the Torah is telling us, to give some colors. Because the Torah doesn't speak so much about the feelings, about what they said, how it happened. So Chachamim, first of all, some of that they got by tradition. But some they are with their wisdom, they are understanding what's happening here. So they say that this man, that in our parasha, his name is already coming. Here on Pasuk 14 on page 876, it says here, the name, Pasuk 14, the name of the slain with the Midianite woman was Zimri, son of Salu, leader of the father's house of the Shimonites. And the name of the slain Midianite woman was Cosbi, daughter of Tzur, who was head of the peoples of her father's house in Midian. So the Midrash is saying that this man came to Moshe Rabbeinu and he tells Moshe, Haim zot muteret li? Am I allowed to marry her? And Moshe says, no. I said, why not? What is the difference between her and your wife? This one is from Midian. Your wife is from Midian. Like, like Korach did when you mock, when you bring the mockery into your question, you leave the other person without words. They're a total different situation. This is a prostitute. This is perhaps it was a married man. It wasn't for the sake of marriage. It's totally. But he's bringing Moshe in a way that the Midrash says that Moshe was speechless and started crying, and people keep dying, and this is happening in front of everyone. And the pasuk says here, and there was no one to say nothing. Where does it say here? Here, pasuk. On page 875, the previous parasha, it says, in the sight of the entire assembly of the children of Israel, he did it in front of everyone, and they were weeping at the entrance of the tent of meeting. People were in shock, some were crying, some were speechless. Nobody knew how to act. And whenever a leader, he was the leader, he was the head of a tribe, with the princess of the Midianites. But at the beginning, it was the girls of Moab, the prostitute. But now Midian was also very, very interested in making Am Israel fail, that they sent even their important girls, those that were never engaged in this type of behavior. They were not hard. She was a princess, but it was with the purpose of making the enemy fall. So the situation was really, really bad. So what happens? Comes this man that was the grandson of Aharon, Pinchas. He comes with the spear, on the spot, he acts and he kills them, both of them, when they are together in the middle of the act. First of all, you have to be very strong, no? But okay, when you see wars of the medieval times, that's how they kill people. I want to ask you, what do you think about this? How do we feel with this? That somebody comes and I'm going to tell, let's say, today we see something wrong. I don't know, somebody's going out of the community and doing things that everybody's going to learn from him, and we can come and kill the person. Come on, this is the way we act. What do you think? How do you feel with this? It's very extreme. It makes us feel very uncomfortable. This is not the way that we're used with the Torah. Torah is a Torah of shalom, of peace, of not taking the law into your hands. But what is the Torah telling us? What is the reaction of Hashem? What is Hashem doing? I'm going to read the first psukim of the parasha. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Pinchas, son of Elazar, son of Aaron the Kohen, turn back my wrath from upon the children of Israel when he zealously avenged my vengeance among them. So I did not consume the children of Israel in my vengeance. Therefore say, behold, I give him my covenant of peace, and it shall be for him and his offspring after him a covenant of eternal priesthood, because he took vengeance for his God and he atoned for the children of Israel. So what do we see? That Hashem is actually praising him and rewarding him. What is the reward? Him and his descendants are going to be Kohanim forever. Why? Because he took nekama, vengeance for his God. And more than that, it continued the pasuk. The second part is very important. He atoned for the children of Israel. So before we continue thinking about how good or bad is this, I want to remind you two things. Number one, people were dying. People were dying. Like it was really, you would see, oh, he passed away, he passed away, he passed away. You imagine the plague in Egypt when the Bechorot are dying. A plague like this is people are dying and it's happening in the moment. It's not throughout a year. It's not a COVID experience. People are dying because of this. You can see the direct consequence. That's one. Second, what did Hashem tell Moshe at the beginning? That we read. Two, what did Hashem want Moshe to do as justice? To kill. So what is perhaps not right here is that Pinchas is not one of the judges and he's doing it by himself, but he's acting without being told. So let's divide ourselves into pros and cons. Who is against? And who is bad and who is pro? Why? What are you, pro or con? Right? Very good. We know when we saw Shimon and Levi, the children of Yaakov, when they went and they killed Yaakov wasn't happy when they killed the people of Shechem after they raped their sister Dinah. And see how connected it is in morality with murder. Interesting, right? Another thing, Moshe is acting without Hashem telling him, and his plan is not to come to Eretz Israel. Interesting.
Look how violent they are. Kill their own people because they don't like what they're doing.
It could be a Chilul Hashem, that people will think that this is the way to act. Okay, somebody say something for Pinchas, for him. Yeah. Wow, I don't remember reading that. So did you say that Moshe did not remember that this should be the response in the moment, but Pinchas is doing it, like he's covering for Moshe? What did Moshe respond? That what? Oh, so because he's the one that, so Judy is saying that Pinchas is the one that remembers the halacha in this case, and that's why he's the one to have to carry it down. Is the English commentaries? Yes. Yeah, yes, definitely. I think like we scream at our kids whenever they're in a very dangerous, extreme situation. This is a very important point, what you are saying. No, but let me explain, let me add to what you are saying. You say he did it with the right intentions. If Hashem wouldn't have written in the Torah that he blesses Pinchas. We could think, some people are acting in a violent way, and you could say, oh, because it was a very terrible action, but we never know what is in their minds. We never know what are the real, justifications. Sometimes you are just a resentful person. You know how many times we see murders, and it's a person that was bitter for his life, for his wife, for his children, for the boss that didn't give him the job. So Hashem is the only one that can really, really know the purity of his thoughts. And Pinchas did it absolutely to sanctify and to defend the name of Hashem and to defend the people that were dying. To stop, actually, we all agree this was an extreme situation. Like, come on, after all what we went through, are we going to die now before entering the land? Are we going to disappear like this? And two more things, and with this we move on to the next subject, unless anybody has something else to add. The Torah, in our parasha, one of the main ideas of this parasha is that when Moshe, we're going to go to see it soon, is when Moshe is told that he's going to die, the first reaction of Moshe is asking from Hashem, please, we need a leader, like caring for his people. I need a leader for these people. We're going to see inside now. And we see that the leader that is chosen is not Pinchas. So it's very clear that this was an extreme situation for a one-time thing, not something to emulate, not something to learn from it. This is not how we follow. If it wouldn't be the 3 weeks, that is usually read with this parasha is the Haftarah of Eliyahu and Navi, Eliyahu the prophet. I might speak about that on Shabbat. Very interesting what happens with Eliyahu. I don't know if you studied about it. Eliyahu was a very zealous prophet, and he comes always to defend the name of Hashem, and Hashem answers him, this is not the way I act with the violence, I have other ways of acting. So it's interesting this is not something that we learn. Now, what is the bracha that Hashem gives to Pinchas? 2 brachot. One is to be Kohanim forever, and the other one, Veineni noten lo et beriti shalom. I give him my pact of peace. So I read that there are many perushim on that, but I read that one that I loved beautifully, that a person, after you kill, after you engage in this violent behavior, it can become part of your essence, of who you are. Like, imagine, there are, I remember now, I didn't remember before. I don't remember where I read this, but they say that they could see that actors that had to act like Nazis for a while, it affected their behavior. Like, when you act in certain ways, it affects who you are. And today we know that very clearly. Today, the wiring in the brain is being formed by the way we act. You are becoming exactly the opposite.
Like they say, like, fake it until you become it.
Exactly.
Like, this is the opposite. Like, if you're gonna pretend to be bad, you know what I mean? Like,
the science of graphology also, they say that by your handwriting, they can read your character. There is a science like that, but there is also another side to it. They say if you want to change your character, they work changing your handwriting, and it's going to change your character. Very interesting. I don't know how much it's proven. Anyway, so the bracha that Hashem is giving to Pinchas, according to this idea, is I am going to bless you to stay a person of peace. This is not who you are becoming. I'm going to help you that this will be a one-time act. This is not you, Pinchas. Don't worry for that. Okay, so this is what we see in our parasha. Very, very sad. And I see that today, really, I don't want to say what is happening, but I think and I see as our main job as people of Am Israel to become Or Lagoim, to be the light for the nations. Our main job, I see it in the areas of families. Teaching the world what is a family, what is the right way to build a society, what builds a good society, families by families. This is the biggest work and the biggest, whenever you want to be giving to society, you want to help, you want to be doing a big change in the world, start with your home. The feminist movement that speaks about women being able to do everything, amazing. I agree. Women are even more capable of men in most of the areas, and they can do anything they want. But with that saying, they minimized and they undermined our work at home that is not changing diapers and cleaning floors. It's not that. Our work at home that is building human beings, molding personality, teaching people to become men so they go out to the world and they give. If nobody does that, what's going to be from the world? What's going to be from society? If each one of us is just trying to prove I'm better than you in this, I'm better than you in this, I'm really worried. What's going to happen with the world when there is no more focus on what happens inside the home, families? So I think that we need to take it upon ourselves. This is the main idea. Like yes, Am Israel had to teach the world that there is one God. I think we're pretty much advanced in that. Most of the world believe in one God. I don't know if it's most with the
Nowadays.
No, I mean with Sin and Indian. I don't know about numbers, but yes, the main religions believe in one God. But today we have a second job that is not less important, that is teaching the value of the home, of the family. Okay, let's move to the next subject in our parasha. It continues by Hashem telling them to fight the Midianim. And now there is a census. Why there is a census now? Why do we have a census? Because so many people died. We want to see who is left. How many are we now? Right? And I'm skipping. And then on Shlishi, Moshe Rabbeinu is told to divide Eretz Israel, to divide the land. As I said, we are about to enter the land. Page 885, Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, to this shall the land be divided as an inheritance according to the number of names. For the numerous one, you shall increase its inheritance, and for the fewer one, you shall lessen its inheritance. Each one according to his count shall his inheritance be given. Only by lot shall the land be divided according to the names of their fathers' tribes shall they inherit. According to the lot shall one's inheritance be divided between the numerous and the few. So now the Torah is going to show us how fair the land was divided. They make a lottery, and they divide it by tribes and by families, and it's going to be according to the size of the family that they're going to get the land. Who is not getting land? No. Besides, yes, of course. The tribe of Levi is not going to get land. Now we have the first feminist request in the Torah, right? On page 887, the daughters of Tzelofchad, Perek Kaf Zayin 27, Pasuk Aleph, the daughters of Tzelofchad, son of Hefer, son of Gilead, son of Machir, son of Menashe, of the families of Menashe, son of Yosef, drew near, they came near. So, in a patriarchal society in those times, that girls come and they stand up for themselves is not a small thing. They come near, and these are the names of these daughters, and the names are told us. It's important to know who they were. Machla, Noah, Hogla, Milka, and Tirza, and they stood before Moshe, before Elazar the Kohen, before the leaders and the entire assembly at the entrance to the tent of meeting, say, our father died in the wilderness, but he was not among the assembly that was gathering against Hashem in the assembly of Korach, but he died on his own sin, and he had two sons. And he had no sons. Why should the name of our father be omitted from among his family because he had no son? Give us a possession among our father's brothers. And Moshe brought their claim before Hashem. So they're saying, Moshe, you just described to us how the land is going to be divided by tribes, by families. And you know that the halacha is that the land, as we studied in the Ilchot Yovel, the land will always stay in the family. You cannot transfer the land to another family, to another tribe. There are halachot that will maintain, like in this way, there is no family in Israel without land. There is not the people that own the land, like we see in downtown, how's the name, Downtown Abbey, that there is the owners of the land and the poor people. In Israeli society is equally divided by everyone. So they come to Moshe and they say, okay, beautiful. But in our case, our father died. He didn't die with Korach. Don't say that he was from the mean people. He died on his sin. Okay, whatever, Hashem took him from his word. He didn't have boys. So what's going to happen? Our family will never have land. So what is going to be Moshe's answer? And Moshe brought their claim before Hashem. What do we learn from this sentence? Moshe brought their claim before Hashem. Moshe will never bring us anything in the Torah from his own ideas. Everything that we have from Moshe in the Torah is from Hashem. Moshe emet v'torato torat emet. This is very important. And if he doesn't remember, or if he doesn't know, he's going to ask Hashem. What else do we see here about Moshe? Everything is important. It relates to them with kavod, with respect. He wouldn't say, listen, what are you coming? Do you want to tell me that if Hashem would think that you deserve land, Hashem wouldn't have told us? No, he takes them seriously. This is the real leader. He takes seriously. He listens. It's because you're a woman. It's because you are. He could have told them, listen, Hashem didn't say so, nothing, forget that, sorry, busy. No, he takes them, he listens to them with humility, with respect, and he goes and asks Hashem. What is Hashem's answer? Hashem said to Moshe, saying, the daughters of Tzlofchad speak properly. They're right. You shall surely give them a possession of inheritance among the brothers of their father, and you shall cause the inheritance of their father to pass over to them. And to the children of Israel you shall speak, saying, if a man will die and he has no son, you shall cause his inheritance to pass over to his daughter. It's not only that he's giving them, they're learning halacha for Am Israel forever. Your case that you go to the court is going to be a case that from there we learn law for everybody else. Yes, Tina. For sure, Chachamim will pay attention to that. I didn't. Rashi says, Nit'alma halacha mimeno. The halacha disappeared from him. וכאן נפרע על שנטל עטרה לומר והרבה אשר יקשה מכם תקרבון אליי. Wow. Okay, so beautiful. It says that the halacha was given, but what happened? Moshe forgot. So Rashi is not saying that's the reason for the noon. I have to find out. I don't know. Rashi is not saying I don't have any more mefarshim at home. I have. I can check who is speaking about that. But perhaps that's the reason. So why does Rashi explain that Moshe forgot the halacha? He says, you remember when Yitro came and gave Moshe advice, you should be able to delegate, and Hashem, and he takes Yitro's advice, and how does Moshe tell them? Okay, you are going to take care of this, and you of the next level, and then he says, "V'chol hadavar kashe elai tebiu." Whatever is difficult, bring to me. So he kind of showed a little bit of thinking himself too much. Oh, what? You think that you can solve everything that is difficult? You'll see, you're human. You will forget here. So of course, wow, so strict. We know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu medakdek batzadikim kachut asera is strict. The higher your level, the more is demanded from you. We don't demand from a 2 years old the same thing we demand from a 13, and we don't demand from a 20 what we demand from a 13. Like if a 2 years old eats and throws the food on the floor, we're going to say, come on, don't do that. We're not going to be so upset. We understand. This is typical of a toddler. But if a 14 years old does that, we're going to be very upset. And the same thing is going on. So with Moshe Rabbeinu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is very strict. And this is what Rashi is telling us. Yes.
let's say in any situation, so someone that owns the land has owns daughters. Those daughters are gonna get married, and then, so they have their husband's land and their own land.
It's here. You continue reading. No.
So she basically, whoever she marries kind of inherits the land. That's like what was a little like off-putting. I guess maybe they have a question. Yes, but then think about Shalom,
Yes.
So like first time I was at that social, that's a show backhanded compliments to women. They have this responsibility, they implement it once they get married, it goes to their husband. But I think it's the same way, sanctifying
Where did you leave that it passes to the husbands? I see Ve'avarta. Okay, I'm going to read it out loud so everybody can. Yes, unusual cause to pass over. I want them to listen also. Instead of using the verb give, which speaks of male inheritance, here the Torah uses the term Passover because the inheritance of a woman can have a result that a man does not. If she were to marry a man from a tribe other than her father's, and then be inherited by her husband or sons who were citizens of a tribe other than her father's, the effect would be that the title to her property would pass over from her original tribe to the new one. Thus, her tribe as a community would lose land. In chapter 36, this problem was raised by Zelophehad's tribe of Menashe. So it's not going to pass over to the husbands. No, that could be the problem cost. The land will always stay in the tribe. It doesn't pass to the, I was kind of, I didn't understand what you're saying. No, I know that the land is always divided by tribes. There are maps. You can look in Wikipedia, or I don't know if they show maps that show you every tribe, what they get, and the tribe maintain their land. So what is the solution exactly, technically speaking? It says here that they speak about it later. I don't know. I think the Torah will say it later, but it's beautiful how, because these girls raised the question, Hashem is clarifying to Moshe, tell everybody what is the halacha. Okay? And now, because we don't have too long, the next.
They're saying, like, it becomes, in the future, it might be something that you figure out. Like that's.
No.
It's not as clear like what happens when she gets married, she's married outside the tribe. No, it's saying that it's the title of the property.
That's what would happen usually.
Should happen.
Imagine a family, right? They have a land, and then the husband dies, and the woman is in that land, and then she marries somebody else. That would go to the new husband. You know what? Let's leave it on the side. These are technical laws that we need to figure out. Perhaps you're right.
It's just always something that was in my head. Wait, how does that work out? You know, like because
what I remember is that the land always stays in the tribe. How is that done? I don't remember. Okay, but that's a technicality. What continues in our, yes. Can you repeat it for us?
Basically, he was saying that in both cases, what's the connection between daughters of Safan and Pinchas is that in both cases, they were in a position where they didn't have something. In Pinchas' case, he wasn't supposed to be a Kohen. The daughters of Safan, they weren't supposed to get that land. But because they took action,
your actions can
because of
change.
Action, it changed like their fate. They took an action to change their fate. So they took that action, and it became like a Kohen. It changed the fate. And in the girls' case, they took action. They stood up for themselves, and it changed their fate. Now they are men.
I repeat in 2 sentences because they told me that they never know what happens here. That in our parasha we find Pinchas and the daughters of Zelophehad in situations where their fate is changed by their actions. Pinchas was not supposed to be a Kohen, but by the way he acted defending the honor of Hashem, is blessed to be a Kohen. And the daughters of Tzlofchad were not supposed to have land according to the general law that was told before, but because they stand up and what is their action? And that was the sentence that I was missing to finish this episode. Bnot Tzlofchad, the daughters of Tzlofchad, are kind of changing the tone. Until now, what we found during these 40 years in the desert is insecurities regarding Eretz Israel. We don't want to go, we are afraid. Korach saying, there was not the right approach towards the gift of Hashem. And the daughters of Tzlofchad are saying, we also want part in the land. By asking for the land, they're not only expressing the desire, they are bringing it into a reality. We see that happening. Now it's true. Now we're coming to the land. I also want. Until now it was all fear and this and that. There was this rabbi, I don't remember who it was, but he used to say, if Moshe Rabbeinu would have sent Meraglot instead of Meraglim, for sure we wouldn't have been 40 years in the desert, because women had more than the men in that generation, the love for Eretz Israel. And I can relate to that. I can see that. I can see that happening. And to finish, so let me just tell you how our parasha continues, but we are going to finish with what comes next. The parasha comes now with Moshe, Hashem telling him that he's going to pass, and the choice of a leader. Then we have a description of Korban Atamid and the Korbanot for the Chagim. The Torah brings again all the Chagim, but this time you have to pay attention. When the Torah brings the Chagim, every time is for a different reason. In our parasha is to say what are the Korbanot that are brought. So what happens next? Here, yes. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe alel ara avarim. Hashem said to Moshe, go up to the mountain of Avarim and see the land that I have given to the children of Israel. Are very sensitive to why this is coming after the Bnot Tzlofchad. And it's very sad. They say that when Moshe Rabbeinu is also getting it from Bnot Tzlofchad. Yes, it's happening. We are coming. And he's seeing that for Bnot Tzlofchad things change. And they're getting the land. And in his mind, perhaps also for me, the decree has changed. Perhaps also I am going to come to Eretz Israel. And in asking from Hashem, have you canceled my decree? Will I be able to come? Will I bring these people to their land? It's happening. We are there. Ototo here. We are here. It's only crossing. But Hashem tells to Moshe, you are passing. You are going from here. Go up to this mountain of Avarim. What am I allowing you to do? See the land. And see the land that I have given to the children of Israel. You shall see it, and you shall be gathered in unto your people. You too, as Aaron, your brother, was gathered in. Because, again, the Torah is repeating, you rebelled against my word in the wilderness of Sin, in the assembly strife to sanctify me at the water before their eyes. They were the waters of strife at Kadesh in the wilderness of Sin. Moshe, so what is Moshe doing next? Here we see the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu as a leader. Now he understands, he sees that there is nothing to do for himself. Who does he care about? He cares for his children. He cares for his people. He was a true leader. That we see how much all his work throughout the Torah was out of care. We say in Hebrew, Leshem Shammai, really for the sake of the position. Nothing was personal, nothing was for his own kavod. Now he's not going to be anymore here. But what is he caring about? Moshe spoke to Hashem saying, May Hashem, I have to say it in Hebrew, יפקוד אדוני אלוהי הרוחות לכל בשר איש על העדה, אשר יצא לפניהם ואשר יבוא לפניהם, ואשר יוציאם ואשר יביאם, ולא תהיה עדת השם כצאן אשר אין להם רועה. So Moshe is asking, may Hashem, God of the spirits of all flesh, appoint a man over the assembly. אשר יצא לפניהם, what does it mean? Who shall go out before them and come in before them. Who shall take them out and bring them in. And let the assembly of Hashem not be like sheep that have no shepherd. And Hashem is answering, כך לך יהושע בן נון, איש אשר רוח בו. Moshe is calling Hashem, Hashem Elohei HaRuchot. We're going to explain now. And Hashem is telling, take Yehoshua ben Nun, a man who there is spirit. We see Ruach, Ruchot. What is the connection? What does it really mean? What does it mean here, Elohei HaRuchot? The God of the spirits? What does it mean? Sounds very not Jewish. Anybody? Why is Hashem called here God of the spirits? Okay, gets close. Essence of leadership. He brings it very nicely here in the Perush. So it's worth it to read it from him. God of the spirits, of all the ways Moshe could have addressed Hashem, he chose this one. Instead of referring to Hashem's omnipotence or wisdom, he spoke of Hashem's knowledge of the intricacies of the human mind and personality. God's knowledge that every person has his own virtues and foibles, that the best way to lead is to understand the needs of every follower. Moshe has implied that the sort of leader he wanted to succeed him was one who, as much as humanly possible, embodied these divine characteristics so as to accommodate individuals who comprise the nation. What qualities does Moshe, according to this Perush, because there are other Perushim, what qualities is Moshe asking from Hashem in the leader? Somebody that has the ability to understand you and you and you and me. Somebody that has how is that quality called? Ozen kashevet. Ozen kashevet is an ear that hears, but how is that called in English? Very high level of empathy. Empathy. Elohei Ruchot, and Ish Asher Ruach Bo, refers to the ability to understand your people, not to see them as a mass. A real leader, I would say a real mother, a real teacher that wants to connect to each one of his congregants, of his students, of his children, has the ability to see that we are all different. How does the Gemara say, Keshem shepartzufem shonim? I don't remember the continuation, but it says, Hashem created us the same way that we're different in our faces, we're different in our being. There is, even in a family, you have two children, same parents, same raising, same everything, and they're so different. So what is the greatness of the leader? To be able to see that if somebody perhaps raised his voice a little bit more, it's not because he's disrespectful, it's because at that moment he's scared. He's scared. And if somebody is crying, it's not because he's not appreciative, it's because he's sad. So that ability is what, according to this opinion, was Moshe asking. Something also a kind of sad is that Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, a man that will go in with them and will come out with them. And he says, not like me, Hashem. You know, when you chose me to be a leader, I didn't want. And you insisted, and you insisted, and you insisted. And then I said, okay. And the mission was to take Israel out of Egypt, to give them the Torah, and to take them to Eretz Israel. But what? I'm in the middle of a mission. So please choose a leader that will take them and bring them and be with them. Not that it's happened to me. Another sad thing is that when they spoke about the inheritance from Tzlopchad to his daughters, Moshe Rabbeinu now is thinking also about what? Who should be the natural leaders here? My children. O Gershon, O Eliezer, perhaps they will continue when he's asking Hashem and Hashem is telling him, this is going to be the leader. Who is the leader? Yehoshua ben Nun. Why Yehoshua? So we say, Ish Asher Ruach Bo. He has this quality. He's a people's man. He knows to understand everyone. What else? What did Chachamim tell us about Yehoshua? What did Yehoshua used to do all the time? He was like student, like the Gabbai, like the one that was all the time when Moshe was teaching, was fixing the chairs, the books. He was stick to Moshe. And there we see, whenever there is a great Talmid Chacham, Rabbi is good, even if not only to listen to the Shurim. We see that with the boys here. Go with him, go everywhere. He goes to a wedding, stay with him. See, observe him, see how he eats, see how he behaves. And I read something beautiful. In that way, Yehoshua was saved from being part of Chet HaEgel. Because when Moshe Rabbeinu went to Sinai for 40 days, he went, but not up. He waited down the mountain. He didn't move from there. That's how faithful he was to Moshe Rabbeinu. Let's finish with one sentence. Hashem is telling Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem said to Moshe, Take to yourself Yehoshua, son of Nun, a man in whom there is spirit, and lean your hand upon him. You shall stand him before Elazar the Kohen, before the entire assembly, and command him before their eyes. You shall place some of your majesty upon him, so that the entire assembly of the children of Israel will pay heed. Before Elazar the Kohen shall he stand, who shall inquire for him of the judgment of the Urim before Hashem. At his word shall they go out, and at his word shall they come in, he and all the children of Israel with him and the entire assembly. So two things, sorry. One thing is that we see that this new leadership is not going to be a one-man show. There is a division of power. Yehoshua is not going to be the one man like Moshe Rabbeinu. Chachamim compared the light of Moshe to the sun, the light of Yehoshua to the moon, is in a different level. But also Hashem wants Yehoshua to work together with whom? With the Kohen. And this is going to be the leadership in Am Israel in the future. The king of Am Israel needs always to follow the word of the Kohen. The Kohen had the Urim and Tumim, and they have to ask him if to go to war, if not to go to war. And only whenever he's about asking a question, the king comes to the Kohen. If not, the Kohen is the one that comes to the king. But all the Kohen is supposed to be here to leader the king, to guide him, to show him the truth so the power doesn't come to his head. So that's one thing. Second thing, Hashem is telling Moshe Rabbeinu, put what? One hand over his head. When there is this transferring of the leadership, of the authority, what is Moshe Rabbeinu doing? Vayas Moshe. Moshe did as Hashem had commanded him. He took Yehoshua and stood before Elazar Kohen and before the entire assembly. He leaned his hands and commanded him as Hashem had spoken through Moshe. Once again, we are shown in the Torah by a simple word, the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu, his humility, his generosity. You know, in every other circumstances, a leader, imagine you were a teacher for 10 years in a school, and you are a good teacher. Then they're bringing a new teacher. What is the human feeling usually? How do you want them to remind you? Even not jealousy, but they want to remind you as the teacher, right? You don't want the next one to be better than you, right or, no, or wrong? So, but Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem is telling him, put one hand. What does he do? Putting two hands. It's a simple detail, but it shows that what Moshe cares the most is his children, his people, for them to have the right leader that will take them to Eretz Israel, the thing that he wanted so much, but he wasn't granted. Thank you, and continue studying because there is so much more. Yes.